H minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
In 1949, the old Soviet Union set off their first atomic bomb. And that was a bit of a surprise to us. We had not really expected the Soviets to have that technology yet. In 1950, very shortly after that, President Truman decided it was time to have a place where we could do testing of our weapons, because now there's an arms race on. They finally decided on the current location of the test site here north of Las Vegas. So President Truman approved that in December of 1950. It was only a few months later when they set off the first atomic bomb by dropping it from a B-50 bomber over the desert. That started a series of above-ground tests at the test site, which lasted until 1962. The people often did know when some of the tests were going on, because the high school students would watch them from bleachers at the high school, and some of the people in the hotels would go up on the roof of the hotels and watch it in the morning. And that was almost a big tourist attraction here in town.
In the 50s, I was in junior high, and I remember them letting us out of junior high to watch. Whenever there was going to be a blast, we would all get out of school and go outside to see if we could see any of the dust or anything happening, above the mountain. And we could always see blasts and flash and pink. There was a dust that rose. Always, brownish, pinkish dust.
Well, in the 1950s and the early 60s, I was a student at Mohave County Union High School, and I remember everyone being excited when there was a test and trying to get up and go out and see it.
I can remember that it was a big deal, kind of a carnival atmosphere. We got to see the dust clouds, and on occasion we felt the wind and a lot of talk. And at that time we thought it was something great to be occurring, because we already knew that the atomic bombs were very important. And we didn't realize how important they were and how much danger they were.
After a nuclear test, you have radiation and the soils that are sucked up into that cloud. The radioisotopes that are a part of that nuclear test are in the cloud, and they go into the atmosphere, eventually go traveling, and then as it travels, that heavy particles, be it the dust, the radioactive material, starts to fall out and fall to the ground. When you look at the maps from the test, if you lay them all together, it looks pretty much that the entire United States got some type of fallout from the atmospheric testing. But having said that, we all carry some sort of body burden from the nuclear weapons testing of all the nations, the French, the Chinese, the Russians, the United States. It's still out there. It's still circling the globe. You can definitely see where there's areas in Arizona, along the Colorado River, just south of the Colorado River, where you have areas where there was fallout. It's widely known that certain cancers are caused by radiation. Certain cancers are caused by smoking. Certain cancers are caused by where you live. Certain cancers are caused by the foods you eat. Certain cancers are caused by genetics. There's just no real pinpoint of how the cancer that you got, what it was caused from. But at the end of the day, if you're one of those family members that had a large number of family and friends from your community that died from cancer, and you knew that those people were in an environment where they were outside during this testing and were part of fallout on them, to them, it's very easy to see where you can put the two together and come with that conclusion.
The Radiation Exposure Compensation Program / Act went into effect in 1990. In the late 1979, in fact, there was a subcommittee that was formed to investigate the impact of the testing, and they did determine that there was some secrecy going on with the Atomic Energy Commission, not letting the public know when testing was occurring. And so Congress responded and created the RECA, and it was signed into law by President George Bush. In order to be eligible for a downwinder, you would have to have lived in a covered area, one of the counties in Arizona, Nevada, or Utah, for a period of 2 years between 1951 and 1958, or the entire 1-month period of July 1962. If you can prove that you were in one of those areas and later contracted a compensable disease, and there's approximately 20 or so diseases, cancers, leukemias that are covered under the program, if you had both the presence requirement and the disease requirement, then you are eligible to file. They are eligible for $50,000. The money is set up in a fund that Congress established, that our government thankfully keeps refunding every year, so that this program was not supposed to go on as long as it has, but it continues to go on as long as there are folks that are available to file. Now, Arizona wasn't actually added until 2000. Arizona was not included at all in the original 1990 Act. So in 2000, they added all these counties in that little strip of Mohave County, leaving out the rest of Mohave County. I don't understand why. I believe it was a political error, that they just weren't adequately represented at the time this program was being established.
Well, what I found was that indeed the county had been divided, and if you look at just Arizona alone, there are certain levels that were being compensated, and certain levels equals certain counties that had the same level that weren't being compensated, including the part of the Mohave County. And not trying to decide whether they should or should not be compensated. Congress made that decision. That was a policy decision that Congress made to compensate. And my only point was, if they're going to compensate at this level in one county, they ought to compensate at that level anywhere in the state or in the United States.
I know one year a number of my family died, and every one of them died of cancer. I'm talking about aunts, uncles, and cousins. I think there was 9 of them died that one year. It becomes so frequently. I went to the funerals then. The mortician, when I'd show up as a pallbearer, he'd say, "You know where the keys are for the car. You take the pallbearers to the mortuary and to the cemetery." And that's getting too frequent.
Well, I've been affected. I had cancer myself. several years ago. It was a very rare cancer. It was in the urinary tract, and it required extensive surgery to get rid of it. And my sister, about the same time, caught cancer of various kinds, and she did finally die of cancer.
In my husband and my family, my last count was 33. The thing is, we were all ranchers and you know, cattle ranchers, because this was a big cattle, lots of cows here in this county at that time. And then either construction or cattle. So we were all outside. We were outside people. I have not been given a pat answer of why it hasn't been accepted. No one, you know, somebody will say, well, it wasn't in the wind and blah, blah, blah. Of course it was in the wind. But I have not been told the true reason. It's a political issue, in my mind. It's totally political.
There's no question in my mind that there was some effect on the citizens of Lower Mohave County as well as Upper Mohave County. The thing that is so puzzling, everybody says, oh, it should have been included, but yet I've asked all kinds of people and nobody says this is why it was excluded.
Even the agencies admit that they should be included, but it's trying to get it done, which has been the hard part. So we've introduced bills. Congressman Franks, who represented this area before me, tried to put a bill forward. We've also tried, in my term, trying to take that bill and utilize it as an amendment to the authorization bills, but it's been ruled out of order. So we're very frustrated in how do we get, you know, compensation or have the fairness of RECA being applied to the people that it's responsible to, which would be all of Mohave County, not just that north of the Grand Canyon and west called the Strip area. We finally just said, listen, we went to the Congressional Research System and said, listen, how do we build something to correct this inequality? How do we fix that? And so hopefully we'll get that chance again. Maybe it's the format we're writing it in, we don't know. And sometimes that's the biggest problem in the federal government. It's the right timing, the right person, and the right place to get something done. So it takes our perseverance to force that, to say, listen, I'm not going away till you get it done. This is one of our top priorities for Mohave County because it's an injustice that needs to be fulfilled. There's numbers of people that have lost loved ones that are currently fighting cancer that should at least have their day of accountability.
It's such a small detail. It means so little to most politicians. It's just like a toothache. They hope it'll go away. And, you know, that's our politicians, and I'm not knocking them. We've got politicians that are looking out for the good of the country. But we are part of the country.